Wow. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting Israel, really.
I think the thanks go the other way. Thank you for
Both
being
ways,
here.
I believe. We are thinking about each other. You in the States, we are in Israel, thinking about you as well.
So everyone in this room knows the name Tzipi Livni, the co-leader of the Zionist Union in Israel's Knesset, is among the most experienced and respected Israeli politicians. She has held 8 different cabinet positions, a record for the most government positions by any Israeli woman.
Thanks.
Tzipi is considered by virtually everyone to be the most influential and significant Israeli woman politician since Golda Meir. She's frequently listed among the most significant women leaders in the world. The story of how she became who she is today, how she views Israeli domestic and foreign policy, is at least as interesting. Her parents were leaders of the Irgun. They have true founding mother and father credentials. Her mother, Sarah, was famously known for robbing a train dressed as a pregnant woman during the time of the British colonial period.
They used the money to buy weapons for the underground. They didn't take the money.
Her father was part of the famous Accra prison break, where he had been sentenced to 15 years for actions against the British government. We've been honored to meet with Tzipi Livni many times over the years, and she has addressed us in many places and in many occasions. Perhaps never before in such a time of great import and great moment. And although we've talked to you about politics in the past, Tzipi, we'd like to take this opportunity to talk to you a little bit about the arc of your personal history and your family's history. Among other accomplishments, your parents were the very first couple to be married in the new Israeli state. Wedding license number 1.
Yeah.
If you could put yourself in their shoes today, looking back 70 years, what do you think they would say Israel has done right, and perhaps what Israel has done wrong?
For them, the existence of the State of Israel is a miracle. It's a dream come true. This is the way they felt during their lifetime. And they are the first and basically the only couple that got married the same day the State of Israel, or of the establishment of the State of Israel, when David Ben-Gurion read the Scroll of Independence, and later my parents got married. And the next day, my father joined the army. And the next day, all of the Arab states decided to start a war against the newborn, small, tiny state that was established. And therefore, for them, it was not the obvious. They fought for it. And in a way, I paid also a personal price, because my mother said that they shouldn't spoil the children, because this is a tough neighborhood. And the young generation should be very strong to face new challenges ahead. And they faced difficult. I do remember the 6 Days War and the Yom Kippur War, when my brother was in Sinai Desert fighting, and we felt that maybe these days are the last days of the state. And Israel is strong now, but we cannot forget the way it felt when Israel was under attack. And so it's not only about, celebrating victories, it's also remembering the difficult times that we faced. And not anymore.
And if they were looking forward, the next 70 years? If your parents were able to say to you as counselors, what would their hopes be for where we stand, where Israel stands 70 years today?
Basically, as I said, it was about the mere existence of the State of Israel. Both of them believed in the values of the State of Israel as a Jewish democratic state. They wanted that Israelis would keep these values living in harmony, hopefully not in contradiction. And when I joined politics, my father was not alive, but my mother was. And frankly, both of them, as members of the Irgun, believed in Greater Israel. They believed in the rights of the Jewish people on the entire land between Jordan River, Mediterranean Sea, and their daughter decided to join politics in order to keep Israel as a Jewish democratic state in the land of Israel, and I do believe in the rights of the Jewish people on the entire land, but the idea is that in order to keep the values of Israel, we need to divide the land. And for many years, I hope that my mother doesn't listen to my interviews. And one day she called me, and it was Friday afternoon. I just gave an interview saying that I believe that the interest of the State of Israel is to divide the land and to accept the idea of a Palestinian state. And she called, and she said, listen, Tzipi, I hear you. It's difficult for me. It breaks my heart, but I see young people living for America. And it was our duty, our role to establish the state for you, our children. And it's for you to make the right decision for my grandchildren. And in a way, for me, it was a kind of an understanding that she also understands that the choice is not just about the rights on the entire land, but also about the values of the State of Israel.
So as part of your personal journey, being raised in a family that was founding family, right-wing, Irgun, you've made you've traversed a course in your life.
I would not describe it as such, because as I was speaking about the values of my parents, and their values were not just about the rights on the entire land. It is true that both of them asked to tattoo on their graves, on the stone, the symbol of the Irgun that includes both sides of Jordan River. But their values was about being also a state with equal rights to all its citizens. They believe that the Jewishness of the state means also equal rights to minorities. They respect the minorities in Israel and the Israeli Arabs, and they believe that we should live all together and give equal rights to all. And therefore, my understanding is that what I'm doing today in politics and what I'm preaching for is basically representing the same values. Because I believe that being a Jewish democratic state means being the nation state of the Jewish people, the entire Jewish people, with equal rights to all its citizens. And the only way to keep these values living in harmony is by leading for peace with the Palestinians in accordance to the idea of two states for two peoples.
Obviously, your political philosophy, which emanates from a strong sense of personal values, values of your family, resonates with the AJC. We are a values-driven organization. You've also made political decisions during your career to branch away from the bipolar or the bipartisan or the two-party system that was dominating Israeli politics at the time when you, along with others, founded Kadima. Is there a lesson there for us that there may be a centrist approach to politics, perhaps in Israel, perhaps elsewhere?
Well, Israel is a multi-partisan system, unfortunately. So the day of the election, nobody knows who's going to be the prime minister because there's a need to form a coalition. It's a messy thing. But we decided to form Kadima as members of Likud, with Ariel Sharon, of course, a great leader. And the whole idea was to lead this ideology that I just shared with you in a different party, saying that in a way that we are the hyphen, keeping Israel as a Jewish democratic state, but also a democracy, not a halachic state, but nation state of the Jewish people. And also when it comes to Israel's security, to keep Israel secured, of course, the strongest state in the Middle East, but also to lead political ideas in order to end the conflict with the Palestinians. We don't believe that Israel's security is just based on the Israeli army, but also on a broader perspective of Israel's security. And that's why we decided to quit, to leave Likud and to give another option to Israelis, not to choose between, just Likud and what used to be Labor, but also something that represents what I believed in since day one in politics, and this is what I believe in also today. Yeah. And this was the same reason for us to create the Zionist Union. But I do believe, speaking about politics, that the choice for every Israeli is to decide between two different directions, two different destinations for the state of Israel, and we should be united on the basics, on the nature of the state of Israel, all of us, but also when it comes to decision-making, we have two different directions.
So to follow up on that, you are a Sabra. You were born in Israel. You've served in the IDF. You've served in Mossad. Today, perhaps 50% of the young Israeli population, when you back out Arab citizens and Haredi, only 50% may serve in the IDF, rough numbers. Your formative years, you experienced violence that was used sometimes indiscriminately, sometimes wantonly. How does that affect your psyche as a leader? How does that affect your consciousness? And what does that mean for the future if we have leaders who haven't had that same experience that you've had?
Well, I didn't know it at the time. I was young, 18, served in the Israeli IDF, being an officer. First time, basically, to get responsibility on others and to show some, example also. What does it mean to be a commander and officer in the Israeli army? It's also a matter of values, in spite of what others are speaking or saying about the Israeli army. And later I served in the Mossad, and it gave me a better understanding also on the nature of the Israeli society. I mean, I was born in Tel Aviv, in my own neighborhood, and then in the Israeli army, you meet different young people coming from different parts of Israel, serving together in an understanding that what we are doing serves Israel's security. But frankly, when I later became a decision maker in the Israeli security cabinet, it also gave me a broader understanding that when it comes to Israel's security, a decision-making is not just from a military point of view, but a broader one, and more than that. Security is not a monopoly of generals and men. Women can make better decisions on Israel's security.
During your tenure as foreign minister, indeed, throughout your career as a leader, in Israeli politics. You've given many of us hope that there are people of integrity and courage willing to try different approaches and to speak from their heart. As you personally think and look out over the next 70 years, what are you most hopeful about?
First, I want to say thank you for the AJC. As a foreign minister, I'm familiar with what you're doing, succeeding in helping Israel, defending Israel, having more and more support for Israel in different states. Some of those Israel doesn't have even diplomatic relations with, and thank you for that as organization. And yes, you deserve it. I am hopeful because I believe that even though we have different opinions, I'm in the opposition now, I criticize, the Israeli government policy when it comes to the need to achieve peace and the need to initiate and to be those that are initiating peace process and so. When looking at the past, I want to share a story that Ariel Sharon told me about, and this was about his childhood, when his parents used to take him to the field. They were farmers, and he was young, and it's Israel, very hot, and they used to work in the field, and he used to say to his father, "Look, let's go home, look how much we have to work, and it's very hot." And his father used to say to him, "Listen, my son, look backwards. Look at how much we achieved." So frankly, when it comes to Israel, 70 years, it's really a miracle. And we have so much to be proud of. And Israel is really a very strong state, the strongest in the region. And by the way, we need to understand that we are strong enough also to take some risks. And looking at the American president in Singapore, speaking about brave steps, and making peace is a brave and bold step. So I believe that when it comes to Israeli society, most of the Israelis would like to live in peace. They don't trust the other side. Some of them would say to you that there is no hope for peace, no partner on the other side, what good with bans, security, terror, and we are facing all these challenges. But I do believe that in the end, the idea of keeping Israel as a Jewish democratic state would lead to a broader support for any Israeli leader who would decide to make peace. We need this leadership. This is what we represent in the parliament. And I hope the role of the United States is very important on this. And I hope that this is what maybe would happen in the near future, because there is an opportunity. And this is something that the AJC knows. We have all this, we used to speak about ourselves as a small state surrounded by enemies. In a way, this is part of our identity. But looking at the Arab world now, most of them understand that Iran is their threat. They don't see Israel as the big or the small Satan anymore. So they would like to live in peace with Israel. They want to have, to be part of to have new allies and alliances in the region against Iran. Now, their glass ceiling is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So this is another reason that to make peace with the Palestinians serves also Israel's security. This can change strategically the situation of Israel in the region. So the opportunity is here. So I'm not talking in terms of being optimistic or pessimistic. I mean, in the end, the Middle East is a tough neighborhood. But I believe that there is an opportunity here, and we need to seize it.
I know that I speak for all of us when I say thank you. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for being a friend of AJC.
Thank you.
And we all perhaps look forward to a day when you extend your record, and there might be a 9th cabinet ministry in your future.
Thank you. I want to say something to you. I heard about your trip here in Israel, and I wish that, I know that you are living, and I wish that you would take with you parts of Israel. I'm not talking about the state. I'm talking about faces, smells, songs. What Israel really is. And I hope that Israel would stay with you when you are abroad. We are thinking about you, and as an Israeli decision maker here in the Israeli government and cabinet, I know that every decision that we make here is not only for the sake and the future of Israelis, those who live here, but also expresses the values of the entire Jewish people. Thank you.
Thank you. That was wonderful. Come on, this way.